we play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for listening, whether you're listening live at 1 p.m. Central on 101.1 FM The Answer in the Little Rock, Central Arkansas area, or online anywhere in the world at the 1011fmtheanswer.com website. They have a live stream there. Or if you're listening by podcast or on Krypton Radio or on YouTube or any of the other ways that there are to listen to the show after the live broadcast, I'm just so glad you're here. It feels good to be back on the radio. I was, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, we did a replay. And then last week, I found out probably less than 2 days before the live show that I would be unavailable. And Dave Ellswick, my friend Dave Ellswick of the Dave Ellswick Show, stepped in to save the day. I often call him Captain Spandex. So he jumped into a superhero persona. And he also had he has a geek panel on his show about once a month on the Dave Ellswick Show on 101.1 FM. His show is Monday through Fridays, 2 to 6. But sometimes on Friday, he'll do a geek panel. And some of those guys stepped up as well. I want to thank Mitch Breitweiser and Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini. Thanks to all three of you. And I just want to say it's been really cool getting to know those guys, both through my own geeky efforts and then also through Dave's show. I go on the geek panel a lot. You know, I try to keep Shane Plays fun. One of the reasons I do Shane Plays was to decompress after several years of being deep in the political world, including as an elected official. And, you know, the last couple of years I've been bothered by a lot of the things I've seen going on in the comic book industry. And I've brought it up some. I've tried not to camp out on it too much. And it's been interesting to be at the epicenter of watching comics professionals try to do something different and change that tide. So it's been both as a comic book fan, as a radio show host, and just as a guy getting to know other cool dudes. It's been an unexpected pleasure to get to know all those guys. So if any of you are listening, thank you so much for your time when you come on the show and everything you're doing, in the comic book world. So, okay, moving right along. This is live talk radio. First and foremost, it also goes out on a podcast because I love both formats. But if you're listening live on June 23rd, you can always call in. One of the reasons that I do this show is live radio. One, I love the energy and the excitement and the, oh my goodness, we could go off the rails at any moment, zing of live radio, but also it's so that it can be, interactive. So if you want to call in at 501-823-0965, that's 501-823-0965. Or if you want to tweet me at Shane Plays, that's ShanePlays, you are more than welcome to. I'd love to have your thoughts and comments on the show. Today is going to be, every now and then, I just like to get a bunch of news stories together and just kind of go over the news. And I usually like to have a guest, but sometimes I just want it to be me and the mic and my dutiful engineer, plucky engineer, Zach. Zach, what's up, man?
How you doing?
Man, doing good. Mm-hmm. So, all right, you ready for this?
Go ahead.
Okay, I got to do a couple things here. One, we haven't had a bad joke of the week for 2 weeks now.
Yep.
Now, I sent Dave a list of bad jokes for last week. I guess he didn't see it. I don't know. But we got to start off today with a bad joke to make up for the dearth, the lack of bad jokes that we've had. So we're going to have a bad joke of the week beginning and ending the show. Mm-hmm. Before I do want to let people know, we've got a lot of cool news items today. We've got comic book news. We've got Star Trek news. We got Star Wars news. We've got a actor joining a police department. There's a ton of news here. We've got D&D news, so stay tuned. We'll be getting into all that throughout the show. But first, I have to start off with a bad joke. And I asked my son. I was at the table this morning, getting ready for the show and just kind of visiting. And I said, and my son's 4. And I said, and he likes to tell jokes, knock-knock jokes. And I said, do you have a joke that you would want me to tell on the show today? And it took about 5 minutes to get past anything involving flatulence. I said, because that's not where I'm wanting to go. Right? So they all involved some variation of the body expelling gas. All right. I said, I want to go there. So finally, he offered me this gem. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
All right. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
B.
B who?
B Sting. There you go. That was he was watching a cartoon with bees on it.
Gotcha.
So I guess he came up with that.
Okay.
I don't know. That's our bad joke of the week to start the show. All right. Got a little bit of banter for you, Zach. We got a banter because we've gone 2 weeks without banter, and you know what that means.
Someone's angry.
All right. I got a postcard right here. You see, I've got a postcard right here.
I do.
You see that?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at me through the glass. I've got the postcard. Okay. This is dated June 21st, 2018. It says, Shane, we couldn't help but notice there was no banter with our beloved Zach last week. Dave was guest host. And the week before was a replay. However, it has come to our attention that there was a serious family situation for you and the lovely Sheila. Mm-hmm. Lovely Sheila, of course, being my wife. In the spirit of greater humanity, we are prepared to forgive this instance and go so far as to acknowledge you are not completely terrible as a talk show host, and at times are even somewhat adequate, albeit barely. Sincerely, Sal's grandmother and her dog Muffin. Sal, of course, being the head of my news team. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that don't know, if I don't banter with Zach, then Sal's grandmother and her dog Muffin get upset. Well, that was quite gracious of them.
Yes, it was.
Don't you think? Yeah, mm-hmm. It's nice to know that I'm not completely terrible, mm-hmm. and at times are even somewhat adequate, albeit barely. So I appreciate that. And we'll make sure to banter with Zach today. So was that? I mean, well, I would say that was practically gracious.
She was kind. It was
kind. Yeah, it wasn't just her. It was also her dog Muffin. Mm-hmm. They signed it together. So I don't know. I guess I should probably keep that one for the Shane Place scrapbook. So, did you go see Jurassic World yet?
I'm going to see it on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, yeah. I hear it's just a dumb fun movie, which is what it should be.
Well, I mean, yeah. I'm expecting it to be better than the first one for 2015 because to tell you the truth, I wasn't a fan of that film. Of Jurassic World.
I enjoyed that one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
See, I haven't watched it since then. I may need to, but when I watched it the first time,
I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was fun. One of my favorite scenes in any of the Jurassic Park movies is when they start counting teeth. This is in Jurassic World. Like, we don't have enough teeth, so they go get the Tyrannosaurus Rex mm-hmm. and sick it on the Indominus Rex. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that scene. So, and then Blue shows up and they team up and all that good stuff.
Do you plan to go see the new one?
I do. I'll probably see it in a theater, but I will definitely see it at some point.
Yeah.
I like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, mm-hmm. but it's not one of my personal must-see franchises, right? But they're good summer fun movies. So
I can understand that.
Yeah, I'll be down with that. So I know Dave liked it. He mm-hmm. was texting and said he liked it.
Yep.
So Joshua Heffington, who goes on the Geek panel, also liked it. He said it was really good. So
yeah.
Anyway, all right. So moving forward, got a couple things here to talk about. One, show sponsor Trollord Games. Everything is off. 40% off everything through Monday. So if you're listening to this live, that's another advantage of listening to it live. From show sponsor Trollord Games, they have Castles of Crusades and Victorious and a ton of other games. Well, all of their stuff is 40% off on drive-through RPG through Monday. So go check that out. Shane Place sponsor Arkansas RPG Con 2018 badge sales are now open. Vendor and sponsorship options are also open. This will be August 11th in Maumelle. This is the second annual Arkansas RPG Con, headed up by Carl Heil. Go to arpgcon.com for more info and make sure to follow Arkansas RPG Con on Facebook. And Carl was just posting yesterday on Facebook in the Arkansas RPG Con there's an Arkansas RPG Con main page, and then there's also an Arkansas RPG Con 2018 event page. So make sure to check them both out. But he was listing all the games that are going to be run and all the sponsors and everything. It looks really good. I'm glad to sponsor him. This is the second year we're co-sponsoring each other, and I'm looking forward to it. So it's already outgrown the first venue just in the first year. Also, don't forget, I think Michael came on last week, but Michael Tierney has a Kickstarter going on right now for the Wild Stars 35th anniversary novel with all kinds of great illustrations in it, and it's called Time Warmageddon. So go check that out. Kickstarters, Time Warmageddon. So also don't forget, if you're listening to this by podcast or any other on Krypton Radio, any other delayed fashion, you can go to shameplays.com and get the show notes. Last week, as I've already mentioned, was it's already up and out there, and that's Total Geeky Carnage with guest host Dave Ellswick. So I guess, Zach, you survived the Total Geeky Carnage.
That was a really good show.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, Dave is how many years? I mean, Dave's the man. You get all those guys together. Yeah, they're having fun. Yep. So, yeah. And then, as I mentioned, the show does go out as a podcast, usually a few days after the live show on the blog, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and more. And last, but never, ever, ever least, Shame Plays is also carried on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is SciFi for your Wi-Fi. KryptonRadio.com. So there we go. I think that's all the show notes and everything out of the way. Speaking of Sal and the head of the news team, let's go ahead and turn on the super secret microphone in the news team and see if we can see what's going on in there. Oh, there they go. Working hard on a Saturday, folks. Remember, for every $1 of Patreon support Shane Plays Geek Talk gets, the news team gets a penny an hour raise. It's a win-win for everybody, and they work hard to bring us all this great news. First news, I thought this was really neat. I actually just saw this yesterday, and I wanted to make sure to highlight this. Do you know who Dean Cain is?
Yes.
Okay, so he played Superman in The Adventures of Lois and Clark, and he's also played Kara's father on Supergirl.
Yep.
Right? He's sort of good guy, bad guy kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's cyborg. I think he's got, well, he's not the cyborg Superman, but I think he's got some cyborg stuff going on with him too anyway. So he's like, he has to work with the bad guys, but he still loves his daughters and all of that. So anyway, St. Anthony, Idaho, Dean Cain has joined the St. Anthony, Idaho Police Department as a reserve officer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty neat. So I actually tweeted him. I said, hey, man, that's really cool. So not all heroes wear capes, right? Real heroes don't wear capes. Anyway, so a small town, and this is from CBS News, and it's under their, by Andrea Park. That's the byline here on CBS News. Says, a small town in East Idaho welcomed Dean Cain, who played Clark Kent in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, into its police force on Tuesday. And he was sworn in as a reserve officer. Now, here's what's going on. Cain is the second celebrity to join the St. Anthony Police Department. He joins his good friend Chips star Eric Estrada, who became a St. Anthony Police Reserve officer in 2016. Estrada was previously a deputy sheriff in Virginia and a reserve officer in Indiana. The two will work together on Estrada's All About Kids task force, which teaches youth how to be safe online. So that's pretty cool, right? I like that.
I agree.
Yeah. I said Cain talked to the Daily Caller about his new gig and said real heroes don't wear capes. Real superheroes wear uniforms and badges and stethoscopes. Real superheroes are members of our military, law enforcement, and first responders. Pretend superheroes wear capes, he said. He has deep respect for first responders. Or he said that his deep respect for first responders inspired him to become a reserve officer. So, yeah, that's true. Comic books are fun. I love comic books.
Yeah.
And I love all the movies and all that. But, yeah, I mean, it's pretend. It's imagination.
That's right.
There's people out there every day, literally, in harm's way. People are like, well, but it's a job. They're getting paid for it. Yeah, they're getting paid for it, but they don't have to do it.
It's like the people were complaining about with what's his name from Infinity War, about what he did in the movie. I'm like, come on, it's not that serious.
What are we talking about?
Who is it? From Guardians of the Galaxy. what's his name?
Oh, are you talking about? You're talking about. How am I blanking on this now?
But whatever.
You're talking about Star-Lord.
Star-Lord, exactly.
Yeah, well, he had a human moment.
Yeah.
You're talking about the scene where he finds out Gamora's dead.
Exactly.
And they've almost got Thanos beat, and he loses it.
And people just went crazy.
Well, that's a human moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I don't hold. Yeah. I mean, that's a human moment. If I found out that the person I loved was dead, I'd lose my stuff too. Right?
It's just that people just was like, really?
People dumb. It's these days, if there is an outrage about something, then something's wrong, right? So I don't know if you do you keep up with E3?
Not much as I used to.
All right. Well, I used to, like, every E3,
right?
I would like just devour everything coming out of it, especially the main press conferences for Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft.
Exactly.
And I'll probably still catch up with those, but I just don't follow everything out of E3 like I used to. It's almost I don't know. It's just you start realizing how much after so many years you realize how much they're using you to manipulate hype, right? They call them news conferences, or press briefings, but half the people in there are clapping and cheering and all that. So it's, it's fun. And that's fine. I'm sure the people that go enjoy it, but I've just gotten kind of, they're like, we're going to do this. And they show this trailer, and then the game never comes out, or when it comes out, it's different, or, whatever. So I watch it more now to, try to get a little idea of what may be coming. And then also it's interesting for me when somebody comes out and gives a keynote or gives a press briefing. It's interesting for me from a public speaking perspective to see what they don't say and what they do say and how they say it, right? Okay. So I think there's things to be learned, because literally stocks can go up and down,
right,
and money can be made or lost on how they could say all the right things but say it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And people are, it's terrible. So
yeah, 3 years ago I used to be locked into it, but now, with the work and everything else, it's just like, I can wait.
I'll probably still watch the videos of the press briefings.
Okay.
The big three.
Right.
Those are usually kind of interesting. But man, it's just you get to see all this news pumping out, and it's just almost too much. Like the big stuff, like San Diego Comic-Con and E3 and all. They've gone from being like insider trade shows to now they're just
spectacles.
Spectacles in the mainstream, trying to tell us what's cool and all that. So I'm just not as jazzed as I used to be.
Totally.
But anyway, a couple things, video games that have been announced recently that I think are interesting, is there's a game called Fallout 76.
Okay.
Which Fallout is a huge franchise.
Yeah.
It's got pedigree all the way back. Is it early 90s, late 80s? I can't remember when the first Fallout came out, but
really?
The first two Fallouts were isometric, top-down, turn-based role-playing games, and then Bethesda took them to being that first-person kind of RPG action shooter kind of thing, which a lot of people love. When a new Fallout game comes out, it's like Elder Scrolls, or it's a big deal. And I think they're talking about the next Elder Scrolls right now too, but I haven't had a chance to check all that out. But the new Fallout coming out looks to be a shared world online. It's like almost more of an MMO.
Okay.
I don't see it referred to a lot as an MMO, because I think marketing wise, MMO is starting to become kind of out of fashion. But it's I've heard it described as like. Are you familiar with? There's a game, I think it's called Ark Survival Evolved. Have you heard about that?
I've heard
these
about
games where they're just like everybody's trying to survive.
Yeah.
And you're all online together. And evidently it's kind of like Fallout meets that. So it's all online. And so it's not your typical single player, story-based Fallout experience.
Okay.
And some people are happy about that. Some aren't. I'll wait and see.
Yeah, I've seen the last two, Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, but like I said, that before then I wasn't paying attention to those video games at all.
Yeah, Fallout's big. Yeah, it came from there was Geek Rage. There's always got to be Geek Rage, right? There was Geek Rage when Bethesda took it from being a top-down isometric turn-based role-playing game.
Okay.
And converted it into that first-person.
Yeah.
But I thought, personally, if you're going to do that, I thought they did a fantastic job keeping a lot of what makes Fallout. the special system and the all the other stuff. The other big game that's grabbing a lot of attention, evidently, it seems to be the big WoW, not World of Warcraft, but WoW is in the real sense of the word WoW.
Mm-hmm.
Would be Cyberpunk 2077.
Okay.
Now, and this is from oh man, I can't believe it's from a well-known game dev studio. I can't believe I can't remember it off the top of my head.
CD Projekt Red.
CD Projekt Red. There you go, sir. Quick on that internets. That's what I was about to jump on. But yeah, they did The Witcher, right?
Oh, I love those games.
Yeah. So in fact, I think they're actually like saying,
yeah,
please stop talking to us about The Witcher because we're trying to talk about Cyberpunk right now. Like this is not The Witcher, but now Cyberpunk 2077 used to be a tabletop role-playing game.
Okay.
That was, it and Shadowrun were probably the two main Cyberpunk type role-playing games, although Shadowrun also had a lot of fantasy and magic elements mashed in with it. But so CD Projekt Red is doing this Cyberpunk 2077 video game that also looks like it's going to be kind of a Grand Theft Auto kind of experience.
Oh.
But you're going to be in this gritty, futuristic Blade Runner kind of cyberpunk world, right?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's getting a lot of like real buzz. Like everybody is like, this is amazing. Like universally, everybody I'm seeing talking about it, from individuals on Twitter up to like the major game sites, they're all like, this is flipping amazing.
I mean, I don't play video games anymore. I usually just go on YouTube and watch the walkthroughs. So that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so you're looking forward to watching that.
Oh,
it
yeah.
sounds like. Yeah. Yeah, there's a huge base of people out there that love to watch games but don't play them.
Yes.
And if people are, I have a YouTube channel and I play a pretty selective amount of games and type of games. But if you're a computer role-playing game person out there listening, you can go to the YouTube Shane Plays channel, and I do a lot of Let's Plays up there. And I try to cover like indie games and upcoming games.
Yeah, I used to play sports games every single year. Then I got tired of it. So maybe I made that mistake of not playing other games like this, Right. That's the reason why I don't play games anymore. I just don't.
Just don't do it. All right. Well, we're going to cut to a break. And when we come back, we've got more news. We got a lot of comic book news, a ton of comic book news, not only related to our friend of the show and comic book professional Mitch Breitweiser, but also DC Comics. I've got a very interesting trifecta of news here from DC Comics when we come back on Shane Plays Geek Talk.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today. The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Troll Lord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or trolllord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or trolllord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.
Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. So we are on 101.1 FM The Answer live on Saturday, June 23rd. It's about 1:30 p.m. Central right now. If you're listening delayed, we're also glad to have you. If you're listening live, you can call in at 501-823-0965 or tweet me at Shane Plays. If you would, I'd love to have your comments and feedback. But regardless, the show will go on, because if there's one thing I can do, Zach, if there's one thing I was born to do, it's flap my lips. I can sit here and just flap my lips about anything and everything. Put me in front of a microphone and it's like, oh, I figured out why my DNA was designed the way it was. You know what I'm saying? All right. Anyway, we do have some comic book news coming up. Before we get to that, I wanted to talk about, we got a little bit of D&D news, and I want to go over here real quick. So this was a couple of weeks ago. I probably would have already covered this, except for the fact that the last couple of weeks have been so crazy, because this is pretty big news. Wizards of the Coast, the official D&D team at Wizards of the Coast, has announced the next two upcoming adventures for D&D. So and they did this big, like, weekend long live stream. They got all these people together to have fun and play live plays of D&D, and they brought in all, like, kind of internet celebrities and everything. Yeah. But what they ended up announcing, and this is the article I have here is from Game Banshee, and it's written by Val H. And the two new D&D adventures are going to be Waterdeep Dragon Heist and Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So both books will be priced at $49.95. That's the standard book cost, whether it's a source book or an adventure book, campaign book for D&D these days. Now, Dragon Heist is slated for September 18th, 2018, which also just happens to be the Air Force's birthday. You're looking forward to that Space Force, Zach. Are you ready for Space Force?
I'm ready.
Are you going to go sign up? There's a pretty funny video I saw on Facebook where this guy goes into, like, it's these military guys clowning around, acting like they're in a recruiter station. This guy walks in, he's like, "Just where I joined the Space Force." And the guy's sitting there, he's like, "What?" And he's like in military uniform, and he reaches under his desk and puts on an Iron Man helmet. And he's like, "Sit down." And he starts giving him the pitch. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. And everything is like, what are the job opportunities? You go to space. What are the benefits? You go to space. Is pretty funny. Said, "Where can I be stationed?" "You're going to space." It's pretty good. And then Dungeon of the Mad Mage will come out November 13th, 2018. And of course, you go search on, go out there and search. I think there's a ton of videos on, like, Twitch and YouTube, and they did like a really crazy 3-day event. Like I said, they had like a mock-up, like, fantasy village and a bar, and they mocked up the Yawning Portal, which is a famous tavern and water. Anyway, they had a lot of fun with it. So, and from what I'm hearing, Dragon Heist will be sort of a low-level urban adventure, and then Dungeon of the Mad Mage is more of a higher-level journey into a very dangerous dungeon, which, I kind of felt that second one was coming. I actually did a review of a D&D book on YouTube called Tales of the Yawning Portal. And that has a lot of information on the Yawning Portal. And in the Yawning Portal, the reason this tavern is called the Yawning Portal is right in the main tap room, there's this huge well you can go down. Okay. And if you go down it, you end up in this crazy dungeon that's underneath Waterdeep called Undermountain. So I was like, I have a feeling Undermountain's coming. And that's exactly what Dungeon of the Mad Mage is. Now, we've had Undermountain resources for D&D before, but this is the first time that we're getting 5th edition official stuff. So pretty neat. Okay, and the other thing is, this is the Origins Award winners. And I think Origins is the second or third largest gaming convention in the world, if I remember right. But they have their Origins Awards, and they do awards for, board games, card games, family games, but they also have 2 role-playing game of the year or role-playing awards, role-playing game-related awards. And this year, and this is courtesy, I got this article from EN World, Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG news, and it's Origins Award winners, and it looks like this is written up by Angus A. So thank you very much, Angus. Now, the best role-playing game of the year went to Adventures in Middle-earth Player's Handbook by Cubicle 7 Entertainment, which I love Middle-earth and all of that stuff. It'd be interesting to see. I haven't looked at any of that to see how it goes in 5th edition. And then the best role-playing supplement of the year, which I haven't seen all of the entries, but I agree based on what I know. It's Dungeons & Dragons, Xanathar's Guide to Everything by Wizards of the Coast. And, I'm still working on I have that book. I'm working on a review to get up on YouTube. I'm way behind on it. I've still got to do Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes as well. But anyway, Xanathar's Guide to Everything is a wonderful book for D&D. I mean, it's really good. It's good for DMs and players and everything alike. So good for that. I thought Xanathar's was a great book. I will be using it a lot as a DM in Dungeons and Dragons. So that's the D&D and RPG news that we have for this week. Now I've got some comic book news here. So here we go. Of course, Mitch Breitweiser, Zach, he comes on. He's been on this show. He comes on Dave's show pretty often. Mm-hmm. Comic book artist. Among other things, he's also the guy that redesigned Drax the Destroyer for Marvel Comics, and they use that design in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
That's awesome to know.
Right, yeah. But anyway, he's on his own now, and he's been talking about doing the Red Rooster, which is it's a serious story, but he calls it Batman in a Barn. Right. And he's been talking about doing the beginning, one-shot comic to launch everything on IndieGoGo. I've seen tons of artwork. In fact, he drew I don't know if you saw this here or not. I'm going to show this to you. He left this for Dave, I guess. You see that?
Oh,
I guess yesterday Mitch drew a custom portrait of the Red Rooster, and because Dave's got it right here on his desk.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it looks fantastic. So anyway, I saw this on Instagram today. Mitch has announced, Comics Pro Mitch Breitweiser has announced via his Instagram that the Red Rooster IndieGoGo will launch July 5th.
Okay.
So that'll be I think a Thursday, because I think July 4th is on a Wednesday this year. And then also, and he said this, it was his own words, he said there's a legendary comics artist on board for Futurists, which is a project he's been working on even before Red Rooster. Mm-hmm. He said there's a legendary comics artist, so we got to make sure that Red Rooster comes out the gate strong, so that he can get that Futurist project going as well. Now, there's no dates yet for the Futurist project, but Red Rooster, like he said, that IndieGoGo is launching July 5th, and I will be one of the first to back Mitch. And Mark Pellegrini is writing that, and I'm not sure I think Mitch's wife Elizabeth is coloring it.
I think
she's
so
a professional
too.
Comics colorist, so. Which leads into one of the other news items that I have today. But first, and this is really big news. Okay, people may not get how big this is, but for me, and I'm going to imagine for DC Comics and for a lot of people in general, this is huge. Okay, I started seeing this come across a bunch of different feeds and Twitter and all that yesterday. DC, and this is from Newsarama. It's courtesy. It's attributed to the Newsarama staff, not an individual writer. But DC is launching 100-page giants as Walmart exclusives, and that's big. That's really, really, really big. Let me tell you why. If you're like, well, what's the big deal about that? And I don't mean that like, well, you're dumb. I'm just saying if it's not hitting you, why that's big. Back in the day, go through the little shimmery, the shimmery wavy, the camera gets wavy and we go and we go back in time. Okay. Back in the day, you didn't have comic book stores.
Yeah.
All right. That didn't start till the late 70s and didn't really pick up steam till I would say the mid 80s and later.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, to get your comic books, you got them at the grocery store.
Yeah.
You got them at the convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
You got, big cities have newsstands.
Yeah.
You got them at the newsstand. You have these spinner racks, Hey Kids Comics. I'd go to the convenience store because I wanted to get comics.
Right.
Bookstores had Walden Books in the mall. I don't even know if Walden Books is around anymore. Had a spinner rack. And so comics were like everywhere, just like any magazine. And as a result of that, like pretty much everybody had comic books. Like pretty much everybody. Even kids down, people who, just everybody had them. You'd go into their house and just like all their toys and everything, there'd be 2 or 3 comics laying here, or some kids had a bunch. I had a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I have more than once, I have fond memories of just you and your friends just sitting on the porch in front of the house. You have a big stack of, you brought your comic books, they brought their comic books. You had all these old comic books.
Yeah.
And everybody would just take turns, like they'd pick one off and read it. And oh, this is good, and hand it. And that's what you do. Everybody read comic books is my point.
Yeah.
Now, not everybody reads comic books.
That's right.
Because you have to go, for the most part, you got to go to a comic book store.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can go to like Barnes & Noble or something like that, or you can have them. But for the most part, you don't just accidentally discover a comic book by walking through a store. But now you're at Walmart, and here's these DC comic books, in this 100-page giant. They've got this big banner across this 100-page giant, and that's a callback. They used to do that.
Okay.
These huge 100-page comic, and they had these masthead things on top and said 100-page comic and 100-page comic giant. And so what's exciting about this is they're doing Superman, Batman. Let me see who else here they're doing. Starting off with, they're doing Superman Giant, Batman Giant, Justice League, and not just because they've dropped Justice League of America. Now it's just Justice League, but this is going to be Justice League of America Giant, and then Justice League Giant. So, and they're going to have older stories, and they're going to introduce other characters, but they're also going to have new content written by like we're talking about Brian Michael Bendis for Batman.
Yeah.
We're talking Tom King for Superman. They're huge writers right now, writing new original content that you can only get in these at Walmart.
That's cool.
Now, that's the only part of it that I'm kind of like, because now I got to go to Walmart if I want to read that stuff from those guys.
Gotcha.
And I don't think that Walmart or DC Comics is going to be prepared for the hardcore collector who's going to descend upon Walmart and buy this stuff before the average person can find it.
Yeah.
So that I'm a little on, but the fact of I'm a kid or whatever, and I'm, hey dude, there's Superman, mommy, buy me the Superman.
Right.
And then suddenly they're getting exposed to this, and it's going to bring, because I have said, and I know Mitch Breitweiser feels the same way. I've talked about it this like I would love to see comic books like in the spinner racks in convenience stores again. Get the price down.
Yeah.
And get them put them on cheaper paper, get the price down, and get them out there everywhere.
Yeah.
Because that's how they proliferated back in the 60s, 70s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. All right, I've spent enough time on that just because I have more comics news to report here. Now, this is from, let's see here. Let me find one. I got my papers all over the place. I got my papers all over the place, Jack.
Do you know the price is going to be on those 100 giant pages?
Yeah, it's pretty reasonable.
Okay.
$4.99.
Okay.
100 pages for $4.99.
Oh, yeah.
Because some regular comic books are $3.99 and $4.99 right now.
Oh,
so that's a really good price.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the other thing, and this is, I've got 2 more news items for comic books. Bleeding Cool reported. Or is this Bleeding Cool? Who is this from? Yeah, this is Bleeding Cool. Now, a lot of people that I know don't like Bleeding Cool because they get political and they attack people. I agree. But Bleeding Cool also gets scoops on news stories.
Yeah.
So when they have an article that's just about, hey, here's a possible rumor or a fact or whatever, I'll go ahead and use them. But if they're attacking somebody politically or viewpoint discrimination or something like that, I don't mess with them. So anyway, here's another story. This is from Rich Johnston over at Bleeding Cool. And this is also DC Comics. $3.99 comics are moving back to 22 pages. They comics back in the day used to, by standard, be 22 pages.
Okay.
Then they went down to 20 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now they're coming back to 22 pages, which is great because that's two more pages, and that adds up when you get 2 more pages of story and art per issue. So if you have a 12-issue series or a comic book series that's 12 issues a year,
mm-hmm.
that's what, 12 times 2, 24?
Yep.
That's a whole nother comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Worth of content over the year, right? So anyway, so they're doing this to I guess to, I don't know, make the comic book fans happy, but it's also the spin here that Rich from Bleeding Cool is putting on it. It also makes them more competitive against Marvel.
Okay.
So now it's going to put Marvel in a point where they look like a worse deal,
mm-hmm.
right? If they don't do something similar. And then finally, and I'm not sure if that. Let me see if that's confirmed. Let me look here. Let me look. Play the news sound while I'm looking, or look just to give them something to listen to. There you go. All right, they're working hard. He's quote unquote told that. But it did say. Either way, there was a DC Summit recently, and writers from there were left in no doubt that 22-page stories will be the new norm. And he finishes it with the new 22 because a relaunch a few years ago was the new 52. And then finally, and this is a move that I'm very much in favor of if the price comes down even further. This is also from Bleeding Cool News. Rich Johnston says DC Comics to lose the gloss ? Colorists take care. So apparently, he says, 3 things come in threes. This looks like the third reveal about DC Comics' upcoming plans. But there's only one they've admitted to, which is the 100-page Giants. This morning, or he said Bleeding Cool already told you about the 100-page Giants. It said moving their $3.99 line of comics 20 pages to 22 pages. And now, he says as a result of their investment into the 100-page Walmart anthology titles and the print stock needed, DC Comics are going to shift away from glossy paper to non-glossy paper for their entire line, mm-hmm. which will necessitate a change in the entire coloring process.
Well, I'm glad you brought the 100 giant pages because, I used to pay for my comics online, but they were so expensive. Yeah. So that's the reason why I haven't bought a comic.
That bothers me, and I understand why they do it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why they do it because if you have a comic book retail store owner
mm-hmm.
and his bread and butter or her bread and butter or whatever is selling comic books for $3.99 an issue,
mm-hmm.
and then their customer can go online digitally and get it for $1.99 or 99 cents.
Right.
That's a threat to me.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I think it's BS that they sell the digital comics at the same price, I understand business-wise why they do it.
Yeah.
But that's a big turnoff to me for digital comics because it's still not the same experience reading them digitally,
mm-hmm.
And I have to pay the same price.
But some was getting up to like $6 or $7. I'm like,
it gets ridiculous.
No.
Yeah, I understand why they do that, but the way to do it with digital comics is to look for those sales, and then you can swoop in and get some great stuff. So I'm not against digital comics. I just prefer the standard comic book. So anyway, my thing on this is the comics today look great.
Yeah.
And the color lasts forever. Like I just read reread a limited series from the 80s called The Weird by Jim Starlin and Bernie Wrightson. It was DC Comics. And it was printed on that regular stock from the 80s, and the pages are browning and the color's fading.
Okay.
But these newer ones that they've been doing all this gloss, the color looks fantastic and lasts forever.
Right.
But the price is so much higher. Honestly, let me just buy the regular issues every month on cheap stock, get the price down, get them in convenience stores, whatever, and then I'll buy the trade paperback or something, the collection, if I want the great glossy. That was worth keeping and all of that.
Exactly. You make the decision later on, basically, in life, like, these comics were great. Well, then, I'll buy the collection now.
Right, exactly.
That makes total
sense.
That's
where I'm at on it, but I'd love to hear what people think about out there on that. It's they could call 501-823-0965, or they can hit me up on Twitter at Shane Plays. Anyway, I got to get us to a break, and then I've got a little bit of Star Wars and Star Trek news and maybe some other news, seeing how much time we have to get through this. But yeah, we're already at 50 after the hour, so let me get us to a break. Some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Conveniently located at 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees. Game Goblins has expanded their store size, and there's plenty of room for exciting inventory and tables for play space. You'll like that space because Game Goblins has gaming events every day of the week. For all your gaming needs, I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers, mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm just going through a lot of cool geek news today. We've talked comic books, and we've talked D&D, and we've talked all kinds of other great stuff today. Got a couple more news items here, mainly related to Star Wars and Star Trek. And then we will probably have to wrap the show because we got, about 7 minutes left here, Zach? All right. Well, go ahead and since it's an all-news show, go ahead and let's turn on that microphone in the super secret newsroom and see what's going on in there. Whoa, there they go, working hard on a Saturday. So feels good to know they're in there working so hard. Okay, so first of all, got some Star Wars news here, and I'm seeing different articles or whatever go back and forth with different takes on this, but evidently. And the article I'm looking at right here is from Sam Machekovich on Ars Technica. You know, I used to write for Ars Technica years ago, back in like 2006. I wrote for a couple of their blogs for a couple of months. Anyway, the report, Lucasfilm puts Obi-Wan film on hold after underwhelming Solo debut. So I'm hearing multiple things. One is that like all standalone Star Wars movies are completely on hold right now.
Yeah.
I'm also hearing, no, they're not. And then I'm also hearing, we're not putting them on hold, but we're slowing down and checking out what we're doing before we move forward with anything. So the two movies that were in development already at certain points, according to this article from Ars Technica, was one, obviously, the Obi-Wan movie. And then also there's a Boba Fett movie that was being worked on. Now, the Obi-Wan movie, even though it's not announced, everyone kind of seems to know that it's coming. And it was kind of further along in the process than Boba Fett was. But now this is, they're citing Collider here. But it says, citing sources with knowledge of the situation, Collider confirmed that all pre-production for Lucasfilm's unnamed Obi-Wan Star Wars story film is now on hold. Every contributor attached to that film's pre-production process is no longer involved. This is according to Collider. And any other Star Wars story film project is currently on a hiatus. That includes a rumored Boba Fett film, which Collider reports was not as far along in pre-production as the Obi-Wan film was. So, other sources haven't necessarily reported the same thing. And then they're also saying that, I guess after, episode 9, the next priority is there's Rian Johnson, who did The Last Jedi, is supposed to be doing a trilogy that's set in a completely different part of the galaxy and all that. So, which I loved Last Jedi. I know it's kind of split the fans, but I loved it so much.
Me too.
Thought it was risky, bold, and cool. Have you seen the deleted scenes yet?
I have not.
Oh, you gotta.
Okay.
Some of the there's ones, especially there's those caretakers that took care of Luke's little village. There's a scene with Rey going to their village. Okay. That is gold. I should have made it in.
Well, I need to delete. I need the scene for Captain Phasma. I need more there because I'm like, I'm like, come on.
Fight, I mean, it's still basically saying the fight's different. I mean, I don't guess it's really spoilers. It's deleted scenes. Basically, Finn calls her out in front of the other stormtroopers and says, "You're on me. You're the one that dropped the shields and then Phasma has to take the other stormtroopers out because they're like, whoa, what? So, but I mean, it's good.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, but I just love that whole scene, either the deleted version or the main one where she's like scum and he's like rebel scum. Because that's the point. Finn becomes a rebel.
Yep. True.
Yeah. He goes from being out for himself to becoming a rebel. Anyway. All right. Anyway. Okay. So my take on this Star Wars stuff, one, I've said many times, I didn't want a Solo movie. So I don't think it's standalone Star Wars movies in and of themselves that are a bit. Just nobody wanted Solo. Yeah. Nobody seemed excited about Solo. But as my friend Justin Mobley from the Mobley Detective Agency, the one that was researching that transmitter sabotage several months back, we were talking about it yesterday, and our take was like they're probably. Again, I feel like they're still going to do them, but they're going to slow down for a second and reassess before they, because it was. I guess evidently it was a pretty big failure considering what they expected from it. I enjoyed it. That's all I can say.
It's only coming out a few months after The Last Jedi. Some people want to break.
Exactly.
Give people time.
And you had all those huge Marvel movies. And So anyway, okay. Finally, this is probably the last news item we'll get to today. This is from TheVerge.com. Chaim Gartenberg says Star Trek Discovery showrunners' new 5-year deal could bring Patrick Stewart back to the franchise. That's pretty big news for a lot of fans. So what's happened is they've signed up a show. They fired the two existing showrunners for behavior, something like that.
Okay.
And so now they've got the new showrunner, Alex Kurtzman, has a 5-year deal that'll put him in charge of all TV Trek projects for the foreseeable future. In addition to Discovery, CBS reportedly has multiple Star Trek shows already in development for Kurtzman to oversee, including a Starfleet Academy show, a limited series based on the Wrath of Khan story, and then also a show that would see the return of, or like a continuation of The Next Generation, which could conceivably bring Patrick Stewart back into the Star Trek mix. It's not confirmed or anything like that, but it did say that it would be like a sequel to Next Generation, kind of like Next Generation was a sequel to the original series, or something like that. So it's pretty exciting stuff in there. We'll have to see what happens. How big of a Star Trek nerd are you, Zach?
I'm not really a Star Trek fan.
You're not really a big Star Trek fan? Not the movies or the TV shows?
Well, I've seen the movies, but besides that, not really much of a big one.
Okay. All right. What do we got? About a minute left there? Not even that? Okay. So one other thing here, I'm not going to go deep into that, but I did have a news story from the Hollywood Reporter I didn't get a chance to go into, that Robert Kirkman, who did Invincible, which was a super beloved comic book series, Invincible is coming as an Amazon series. So that's got a lot of people excited. Live action. It's either animated or live action. I'm not sure. I think it's animated now that I think about it. And also Rick Grimes is going to be, Andrew Lincoln's going to be leaving The Walking Dead. Okay, got to do the bad joke of the week. You ready? Yeah. All right. Zach, what's the best thing about Switzerland?
I'm not sure.
Man, I don't know either, but that flag's a big plus. Ha ha. Folks, we will catch you next week right here. Same Shane time, same Shane channel. Shane Plays Geek Talk.
We need more. What? Teeth. We need more teeth.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.